Robert Plank Show, episode 384, Splitly and Profit Peak. Split test your Amazon FBA pricing, images, and product listings with Andrew Browne. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Andrew Browne, and he's the co-founder of Splitly, which allows you to run split tests on your Amazon listings. So Andrew, glad to be talking to you right now.
Happy to be here, Robert.
So glad to have you here. And so yeah, you guys do split testing for Amazon. So a couple quick things I want to kind of put out there for people to sort of get caught up. I know that when I tell people about they can sell on Amazon, they can mail them to Amazon's warehouse or send them themselves. People always seem to get it confused or misunderstood with the Amazon affiliate program. So can you really quickly just kind of explain this whole Amazon seller thing for people?
Yeah, so there's different models for selling on Amazon. You can sell as a wholesale seller where you're just buying a product from some other factory and you're selling on a listing. So there might be 10 other people competing on a listing and you're just then trying to sell for the lowest price and that kind of thing. And then you have like retail arbitrage where you're trying to spot the price difference between, let's say, Amazon.com and somewhere like Walmart or eBay, something like that. And if there's any difference, then you can make that difference by just drop shipping from one to the other. But the area that we focus on is called private label, and that means you don't have anyone else on your Amazon listing because you've branded it yourself. Um, so you're not competing for the buy box. You can set your price any way you want, and you're just competing against other Amazon listings or other products on Amazon.
Super
So
cool. And that was one of those things where like years ago when I had heard this that anyone can have their own listing on Amazon, it sort of blew my mind because up until that point I had said, well, if I'm gonna search like a new sweatshirt or a new office chair or something on Amazon, I never really gave much thought to, oh yeah, there's a real person who they made that share, they private labeled it, they got their inventory, they set up a product listing, they set up a price, they set up all that stuff. And so just like knowing that that's a thing is crazy. And then this whole idea of split testing, and this is sort of the area where my knowledge kind of ends, and I'm hoping that you can fill in the gaps for me because like split testing, to get people caught up on that as well. That's where if you have a web page and you have like a headline and certain things like that, you send traffic to it, and you might say, well, let me try a different headline, or let me try one version of this web page without the headline. Send half your traffic to the original web page, half your traffic to the sort of new changed up web page, and see if there's even a slight improvement. And if there's not, you can say, okay, I can stick with the original, try something else. If there's even like the tiniest like little 1% improvement, you can say, okay, great, now I'll move everything to this new winner, and then split test again. And so sort of having said that, so there's Amazon and there's split testing, and so how do these two things combine? How does split testing work as an Amazon seller?
okay, so yeah, as you described it with the website, because it's your own website, you can do whatever you want, and so there's lots of software packages available for you. You can just use Google's one, of course, and then there's more tailored ones, Visual Web Optimizer, Optimizing, these kind of things. But so we're the only one really for Amazon, and the reason why there hasn't been a solution until we started was because it's not so obvious as to how you would do split testing on Amazon. You can't stick software on Amazon's website. So all you have is control over their interface with their inventory system. So it's called Seller Central, and it allows you to update your listings and change the price and ship things to them, all that sort of stuff. So we can't do in the strictest sense, split testing like you would on a website, where every single visitor to your website is getting split between the two different versions. We have to do like what you would call a temporal version of that. And so what we do is we just keep updating your listing back and forth between the two different versions that you're testing. But if as long as you have enough data, this is reliable, right? So it's just as long as you can run the test long enough and get enough data, you can still, using this method, figure out which version of your listing is the best one.
Super awesome, and yeah, and I was wondering like how that worked out because I heard about this. I heard about you from a few people, and I was thinking like, okay, well, is it multiple listings of the same product? And so you're saying that your software goes in and updates and maybe switches back and forth between two versions of your product listing or prices that you're testing?
Exactly. So you'd have the two different versions on splitly.com, and then so we have the data and we just keep uploading it back and forth. Amazon has a system that allows software to do that, to communicate with it. So we just go back and forth between the two different versions, and then we just put in all the data from Amazon, and then we do, we calculate what they call statistical significance, which is the science, maths for figuring out, because what you're trying to do here is take the guesswork out of it and reduce the luck element. So because if you just make an edit to your listing and you go, oh look, I made more sales this week than last week, our instinctive human behavior is to associate that change with the change, that change in sales with the change that you made. But there's actually no, if you made no change at all, you'd still have some difference in sales. You can't just attribute it to whatever change you made to your listing. And so this split testing kind of takes out that luck element and says, okay, look, we can actually spot, the actual effect that's happening.
Right, that makes perfect sense because I can imagine that people might, if they tried the luck method, they might go in and make a change to their product listing. They might do it, a month before Christmas and say, "Oh, hey, I made this change. I got a huge influx of sales." And it's like, well, the thing that you
Exactly.
did
Yeah.
wasn't responsible for the change that you made. Kind of like the saying is like, if I'm watching TV and I pick my nose and a commercial comes on, did me picking my nose cause the
Right.
commercial to happen? No, it's just totally a coincidence. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so you say in there that so the way your system works is it hooks into Amazon's interface, and it goes in and keeps switching the versions of the web page back and forth. And so I mean, how often are we talking? Is it once a day, every couple of seconds? How often do these sort of split tests switch back and forth?
So we go for once a day, and the reason why is because Amazon gives so ideally the faster you could do it, the better. Now, every couple of seconds just wouldn't be possible because you're sending an instruction to Amazon to make this update, and then Amazon's system has to respond. So I guess the fastest you could physically do it would be like hourly to maybe every couple of hours, that kind of thing. Depending, you have to keep on checking Amazon to see the update actually happen. But the reason why we go for 24 hours is because they give the traffic data. So you want to know how many visitors you're getting to your listing. This is very important, right? If you're trying to calculate a conversion rate, you need to divide your sales over your number of visitors. So without that information, you'd only be looking at sales. I mean, that is a way of doing it, but it's better to be able to know the number of visitors that are coming to your listing. So we do it on 24 hours. Then so the way to make that more because we're making those updates 24 hours and not more rapidly, that you're gonna have to run your tests for longer than you would, let's say, on a website. But the good thing about Amazon is, generally speaking, you're getting a lot more conversions and traffic on Amazon than you would on a website. So that helps a lot.
Well, cool. And so, if I'm understanding you correctly, so your system, so people go to splitly.com, they set up their two split tests, and then your system goes in and sort of switches them back and forth every 24 hours. And then Amazon also gives the data of who visited a listing and like who bought. So then you kind of look at, okay, well, what's that conversion rate? So based on the number of visitors, how many people bought, and then you sort of do you compare like the time and date ranges for like, okay, these sales happened when it was at version A, these sales happened when it
Yeah,
was at version E. Is that how that works?
exactly like that. Yeah, yeah. And so by doing it by this method, so for example, if you have your seasonal product, you're having that seasonal effect will be spread out over the two different versions of it. It won't just affect one of them and not the other. So I mean, people get caught up with this. A lot of the times they all say, well, why not just update to one version for 2 weeks and then update to the other version for another 2 weeks? Why make this do this switching back and forth thing? And it's not intuitive. But if you were to, you can do these kind of things yourself to wrap your head around it better. Like you could flip a coin. If you keep on flipping a coin, you will find out that the more you flip it, the more likely you are to get close to 50% heads and 50% tails. But if you just flip it once, it could go either way, right? You're not going to be able to tell anything from that. So it does really matter how much what we call them data points. So the more data points you have, the more accurate a result you can get.
Right, makes perfect sense, and I can just imagine if someone was manually doing all that, it would be a lot of work. And then, as a lot of us know, like when you see that all the data and all the numbers come in, sometimes it's counterintuitive. Sometimes you kind of eyeball the numbers and say, "Oh, well, it looks like this change like had a lot more sales." But then you mentioned a few times, statistical significance. So it might look a certain way, but then you run the numbers and you say, "Well, this one split test I was running, it looked like it was the winner, but then we let it run for long enough, and then the other one pulled ahead and was the
Yeah.
actual winner."
Exactly, yeah. So, and I mean, you can do everything. We do explain how you do everything yourself. It's possible to do all this without software, and it just makes it so much easier with the software because it does the updates for you, which is not a trivial thing because they have to be done at midnight Amazon time. So if you're selling in the US, that'll be midnight Pacific time. Otherwise, the time that the listing is live will not correlate with the data that we're getting from Amazon. Um, so that's what all that, and then you calculate statistical significance. Yeah, you can do it. It is possible with the spreadsheet and stuff to do it yourself, but I mean, yeah, most people are just not going to put in that time. So why not just get a piece of software to do it for you?
Right, fair enough. Why put yourself
Yeah,
through all that work unnecessarily? And so when
yeah.
people go ahead and they sign up for Splitly and they start using it, I mean, what are the steps involved in sort of getting things up and running and getting things hooked up to their Amazon account?
Well, I mean, if they're already selling on Amazon, they're gonna find Splitly very easy, right? Because it's just you just simply connect it up to connecting it up is just like three steps, then you're done. And then really I mean, using the software is very simple. The hard part actually in terms of split test is actually coming up with the ideas for the split test, right? That's where the work comes in. You have to think, okay, how am I going to I'm going to change my copy. How am I going to improve it? That sort of stuff requires work. So in that sense, we often recommend doing easy stuff that you might get big wins on early. For example, you could swap your primary image for another image and see how that performs, and because that's an easy test to set up. But I mean, probably half of our customers are using Splitly for pricing, so they're using it to optimize what their price, and that's quite an interesting thing because if you just do a simple A/B test with your price, you're going to have a problem, and that is, if you have an e-commerce store and you're selling well one day, Google doesn't care. It's going to rank you the same the next day in its search results, regardless of how well you did on the previous day's sales. That's not something it's looking at. But Amazon is because Amazon makes money when you make sales, right? So it rewards listings depending on how well they perform. So in terms of split testing, how that's relevant is if you are testing a price, $20 versus $15, and you get more sales at your $15 price point, then the following day, when your $20 is live on Amazon, when that's the price, it's going to get this benefit from the previous day because it's gonna have a little boost in the search rank. So the two things are corrupting each other, if you know what I mean. And actually, the test will be biased towards the higher price point. So the way we get around that is actually we have a whole different system. We call it profit peak, and that uses sort of machine learning techniques to. I would actually machine learning would probably not the best word. I guess AI would be a closer way of describing it. What you're doing is you're factoring in all the previous day's sales into the current day's performance. So, and each day you're recalculating that, and you're getting a big plot of how your previous day sales, and the current price are affecting today's sales, and you're trying to fit a curve to that plot of data points, and then using that curve, you can say, okay, we're going to try and maximize that. So it's a little more complicated. It's kind of even harder to explain, because it's not intuitive. But it takes care of that problem I just described there, which is the sales velocity problem. Like a big part of selling on Amazon is driving traffic, driving sales, so that you move up the search rank. Amazon rewards you, and then you make more sales. Right? That's a big part of the game. You're doing all these promotions and giveaways and things like that.
Interesting, yeah, and I totally hadn't even thought about that because, like you said, usually you think about a regular web page, it converts a certain way. Google's going to list it where they're going to list it. If you get a flux of sales, it's not like Google's going to, put you on the number one
Yeah.
position or anything like that. But in Amazon, they will. So then you kind of have to factor that in. And so, we're talking about split testing and stuff like that, and A/B split testing. And is this just for A/B split testing?
No, you can do multi. You can set it up whatever way you want. However, we strongly encourage, because what people, unless you're like an expert at split testing, you're generally going to be coming along and you just want to get a result. We just recommend sticking with the A/B test because it's just simpler. If you start doing stuff like testing multiple things at the same time in the same test, you're going to run into problems where you get a result, but then you're not sure which change actually caused the correct result. So unless you are familiar with how to set up a multivariate test, we just recommend you don't do that. I mean, technically speaking, you can actually get answers faster by doing multivariate tests, but you have to really understand how to set them up. So, yeah, it's just stick with the A/B tests, and life will be easy.
Right, fair enough. Keep it simple and practical,
Yeah.
and get the results. And so you mentioned that so a lot of your users of Splitly, they when they have the best results when they first sign up, they get that big win, they go for the low hanging fruit, they change up the main product image to see if that's a big difference, they change up the pricing. So do you have any interesting sort of case studies or success stories from something like that where someone had an Amazon listing, they went and used Splitly and did some A/B testing and they saw some really huge, big, amazing results?
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time. Of course, we have a constant communication with our customers, so that's one of the things we do quite well. We get on the phone with them, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I mean, you hear really big success stories. Again, it usually centered around things like images and pricing. So, the kind of things you would hear is like an increase of 30% on your conversion rate, that kind of thing. They'd be at the higher end of success. But that, I mean, to put that in context, like a 30% conversion rate increase on Amazon is huge, right? So let's say you okay, so what would that be? Let's say your conversion rate is 10% and you get it to 13%, and you're thinking, okay, that doesn't sound very much, right? A 30% increase, so it's 3% on top of the 10. So it doesn't sound very much, but you have that compounded effect. So what happens is, not only do you get your, let's say your profit for that month was $1,000 and you just got it to 1,300, right? You don't just get that, you get more. Now Amazon's going to reward you because you're converting better, you're getting more, you're making them more money. So you're going to move up the search results, and you get this effect of extra sales on top of that. So it's really, really effective. And when you think of it this way, you don't have to spend more on advertising, you don't have to drop your price, you don't have to do anything else. So if you can get a few percent at a conversion rate, it returns dividends. So yeah, I highly recommend it from that point of view. Yeah, and then the success stories about profit in terms of your pricing. Um, so that one's like kind of trickier to quantify because it's very hard to say exactly where you would have been making. Do you know what I mean? With a split test, you can see the actual one version doing much better than the other version. But when you're doing something like a repricer, you don't have that same way of measuring it. So that's something we're trying to work on, but it's hard to know exactly how to make a confident what's the word, to confidently show that, okay, yes, this new price point is outperforming it. So our answer to that one in terms of repricing is what we can show is that its effect across the board, across thousands of products, and we can show that this is working on average. But on any individual single product, it's very hard to show exactly how much profit it's increasing on.
Fair enough, but it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like over and over again, even if you don't, even if it's hard to tell the exact number with the repricing and all that sort of stuff. It sounds like everyone who, I mean, there's no downside to doing a split test, right? At the very
Oh
least,
well,
you'll find
definitely
some
not.
easy
Yeah,
thing to change. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm talking about two different things at the same time there. In terms of split testing, there is no downside because you run your split test, you look at your results, and you make the decision. You always make the final decision anyway, but it's clear as day as to which one is outperforming the other one. So yeah, I mean, it's almost like we have two kind of different products stuck into one thing, even though they're in the same ballpark, but they're just using different methods of optimizing your listing. But I would recommend. I mean, anyone who is, if you're just starting out on Amazon and you just launched your product, that's the only time I would say to people that maybe it's too soon to start split testing. But as soon as your product's going in any way at all, as soon as you're getting some sales and everything like that, that's the time when you can start looking at how you're going to optimize it, get that conversion rate up, and see where your price should be. And as I say, if you don't want to use the software, for example, if you just don't want to spend the money, it's like for the entry plan, it's $50 a month. If you don't want to spend the money, you can do it manually. But I mean, another thing you can do is you could just sign up and do your split test, and then you can also stop at any time. So um, yeah, definitely think it's worth checking out and giving it a trial anyway, and seeing what sort of results you can get out of it, because we've seen people come back with extra profit in the hundreds of thousands on the bigger sellers. Obviously, if you're a small seller, you're not going to get that kind of return. But if you just think of it this way, if you can get a couple of $100 back, then you've paid, it's been a worthwhile endeavor. So
Right. I mean, just make a couple of extra product sales a month from that tool, and it's already paid for itself. And so,
exactly, yeah,
so,
yeah,
so,
and that's
so
not hard to do.
awesome. So really great. So I mean, it's so when I gotta admit, when I first heard about this idea of split testing on Amazon, it sounded to me like kind of like an advanced thing and only something to do if you're at a certain amount of scale. But what you're saying is this is beginner friendly, and if you're brand new to Amazon, maybe it's not ready for maybe you're not ready for it yet, but even if you've been selling on Amazon for a few weeks, you have some amount of momentum. Why not keep that momentum going and do a quick split test? And I mean, I was just super amazed that at this compounding effect you mentioned. Like, so you have your product listing, you do a split test, you get a little bit of a boost, and then Amazon lists you better in the rankings, so you get
Yeah,
more traffic, you get more sales. Your split tests will run even faster next time. You can test something else, get another bit of a boost, and keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. And so, I mean, really awesome stuff to think about here. And so, with your users of Splitly, have you seen anyone kind of make like a really common mistake with split testing? Because I mean, there's the tool available for them, but I imagine if people use the tool in the wrong way, they won't get the results they want. So have you seen any of that sort of stuff, or anything to warn future Splitly users about common mistakes or pitfalls?
yeah. So I mean, the general thing we'd say is, we have a lot of our users would have multiple products, and some of them pick products that are struggling. But they're not the suitable product. So if they say, oh, I'm only getting one or two sales a day on this product, I want to see how I can improve it. But I mean, that's in terms of your return on your ROI there. You're gonna, any improvement on your conversion rate, for example, on a good seller is going to be that much more. It's going to give you that much more cash back in your pocket at the end of the day, because it's making more sales. So that's the first reason to focus on your winners. And the second reason is that your winners have more data. They're more suitable to being split tested. So that's the first mistake we just keep on trying to reinforce to people. I know you have this struggling product and you're worried about it or whatever, but what you want to be doing is getting as much money back. That's all you should be focused on. What's the most profitable thing? So always try and optimize your winners, get that extra few percent out of them. And the other thing we notice people doing is they will test something that's not going to have a very big impact. They will, reorder their bullet points, or they'll just make a small change to their copy, this sort of stuff. You have to understand that the software or the system of split testing has to be able to detect which version is better. And if you make a small change, that test is going to be running for a very, very long time before we can actually confidently say which version is better. So those two things right there: do big changes and focus on your winning products.
Super awesome. Two pieces of very great advice so that people can kind of avoid wasting time and actually put this tool to good use. And so, the tool that everyone should be using, no matter what skill level as an Amazon seller you are, is Splitly. That is SPLITLY.com. And so, Mr. Andrews, if people are listening to our conversation right now, is Splitly.com the front page, the place for them to go, or is there some other location you'd like to send people?
No, Splitly.com that's perfect. We have lots of free resources, blog, all that sort of stuff, so you can get more information there as well. So you can go there, and if you want to sign up, that's the place to go as well.
All right, super awesome. And so, and yeah, and that blog is amazing. I was kind of flipping through it a little bit before we talked today, and like there were some cool posts. Like I saw one that was like your split testing schedule for the whole year. So it's like, well, in January, test your pricing. In February, test some of your images. So really great how people can just kind of, even if they've never split tested before or they're not really sure what to do, there's the software itself, and then all kinds of ideas or step by step guides for what people can
Yeah.
do to kind of make that listing even better. So super awesome stuff. So splitly.com. And then you mentioned a little bit about the sort of pricing structure. Can you kind of tell us about what people will pay when they use Splitly?
So yeah, so our entry plan is it's $50 a month, and for that you get three concurrent tests. So that would be if you have three different products, you can test all three of them at the same time. And also you get to you can also use three repricers, the profit peaks. We also have rank tracking, which is you essentially you this is quite important actually. Everyone should be doing this. Is you want to know where you are ranking depending on what people are searching on Amazon. And so what it does is you can put in all the keywords that people might enter to find your product, and then it will every day it'll update and say, okay, you're ranked here for this, you're ranked here for this. So if you were actually launching a product, that's quite a good tool to track to see where you're going with that. Um, yeah, that's the first tier, and then it just keeps going up for the bigger sellers. For the $100 plan, you get your 10 listings, etc., etc., and you can see them all on the actual website, the different pricing tiers. Um, I will say one thing that I must add here, that for a lot of people, they're not familiar with split testing, how it works, and they're not sure what to do. One of the things we're very good at is communicating with their customers. So I mean, at any time in US business hours, you can always talk to our staff. We have a chat box. I mean, you can also call them anytime. You can set up a call, and they'll be happy to go through your products, advise you, like tell you you should be testing this. This is what you should be doing. So I mean, that really, I think just that alone, just from getting that kind of a feedback and advice, I think is makes a big difference. It's worth it.
Yeah, I agree, and that's super generous of you guys. And I've definitely used like software or some services where like if you were stuck, you were just out of luck, or you couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't get anyone on the phone. So it's super great of you guys to provide that service. So if someone is stuck or needs help getting it set up, they can just get one of you guys on the phone and get that help. So yet another great reason to use Splitly to get your Amazon listings, performing better, converting better, which means higher rankings, which means you can just kind of, do better and better just by kind of having this tool in place, having a couple of these quick tests in place, and just letting the numbers run themselves, letting the math calculate it, and that way you're making these decisions in your Amazon business based on data, based on past sales, and not just what you're guessing. And I mean, what's great about what you've explained here is it sounds like there's not just the split testing itself, but then also you see the results, you see the rise in your ranking, stuff like that. So not only are you not guessing, but then you can look back and see the results as well. So then you know, okay, well, I tried something and then I can see how that performed. I can just keep on kind of going down that path. So really great advice here. Really great stuff to think about for any kind of Amazon seller who wants an easier time, who wants more money, more sales, and to put in less time and just have the machine do the work. So splitly.com is the place to go to sign up for this amazing service and start split testing your Amazon listings for more and more sales. So thanks so much, Andrew, for stopping by and explaining to us not just how we can make more money on Amazon, but also split testing, but then also how to use your great tool to do it. So I appreciate you and appreciate you stopping by and helping us out here.
Thanks for having me on again, Robert. Yeah, thanks.
This is Robert Plank. And would you like to be a guest on the program? Do you have an idea for a future episode? Or do you just want to tell us how we're doing? Get in touch with us right now at robertplank.com/ask to let us know.